We breaking bread, we breaking bread, we breaking bread, one conversation at a time. We breaking bread, we breaking bread, we breaking bread, one conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
The Breaking Bread Village.
One conversation at a time.
Hey, welcome back to the Breaking Bread Village. I am very honored and very excited to have my guest on today. He was with us last week, and the conversation was so good and so filling, and people really responded well to him. So, I kind of moved some things around and asked him if he wanted to come back on today so we can kind of continue this conversation and beyond. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on and then allow him to introduce himself. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I'm well. Welcome back. And I appreciate you and thank you, of course, for being back here with us today. I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself for some people who may not have caught you last week.
All right. I am Derrick Slack. I am older. I am a high school teacher. I've been teaching for 22 years now. And I teach in Indianapolis where I live. I have a wife. We've been married for almost 4 years. Beautiful wife, I want to add. Oh, she's fun.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I know that's right.
I have 3 equally, carbon copies of my wife, daughters. I'm the only man in the house, and I love it sometimes. Sometimes I wish I had a son, but they're all bright as the sun. So
that's right.
And I'm a traveler, so I've traveled all over the world. Traveled all over the United States with my spoken word poetry, with my books. I've written 9 books. One of my books, 19,340, I wrote after I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, which is the world's tallest freestanding mountain, and just made that analogous to life. And just, how life is about climbing mountains. So that's a treasure for me. My latest book is called Orange, and slowly becoming a bestseller, where it's a children's book about diversity and inclusion, the power of words, and just positive self-esteem. And, that's me in a nutshell. There's so much more, but, that's the good stuff, at least.
The good stuff. Awesome. Yes. And we are going to talk more about your book, your latest book, towards the end. We really want to talk about that and kind of, what inspired you to write it. But we will get to that. So again, I just wanted to welcome you back. I really appreciate you for taking the time to come back here with us today. And I know last week we kind of talked about, Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And the conversation was really, really good. And I really appreciate everybody's perspectives in regards to, what they thought about it. But I want to kind of continue that conversation. But before we get into that, I know you had a poem that you wrote that you wanted to share because of, and I want you to tell us why you wanted to share this, when you wrote it, why you wrote it, and then I want you to go ahead and read it for us. So go ahead, Derrick.
Well, early in the morning on February the 4th, which is today, in 1999, 22 years ago, there was a young man coming home from work. He had 2 or 3 jobs, coming home from work, and he was on his doorstep when 4 men, Sean Carroll, Richard Murphy, Edward McMillan, and Kenneth Boss, approached him and pulled out weapons. And the result was this young man was shot at 41 times, and he lay dead right there. They said they saw a weapon, but when they examined, all he had was his wallet in his hand. And those 4 men turned out to be New York City police officers. And they say it was a mistaken identity, but he fit the description as it's one of the things. But he had his wallet in his hand, saying that I'm not the one that you're looking for. But he lost his life at the hands of cops. And that is, exactly 22 years to the day. February the 4th, 1999. And that just, I was living in New York at the time, and it compelled me to write this piece called 41. Where were you February 4th, 1999, as those bullets sprayed 41 times? Where were you February 4th, 1999, as those bullets sprayed 41 times? And I know we've heard this a million times, but it still cuts me deep like a bullet severing his spine, exploding his spleen, but you don't care. You're just trying to make that green. And you satisfied as long as your pockets is ample. But see, that's not the only example. Like the 6 sadistic bastards that stuck sticks up Abner's anus, and I didn't get the faintest idea why they still breathing. Got you believing you free. Well, Bin Laden's not the one that's been plotting my demise since 1493, and besides, he's dead anyway. When he got stabbed in his back by his homies, the CIA, and them terrorists they talk about look like Timothy McVeigh. So where were you February 4th, 1999, as those bullets sprayed 41 times? Where were you February 4th? Of course they can coerce you and believe in you free. Of course them cops back on the force enforcing them laws that keep us inferior because they truly believe that they are superior. That's another man's complex, but that's a complex that really isn't that complex. It's simple. It's stupidity multiplied by time divided by the truth times miseducation plus 1/2 paranoia equals 3/5 a man equals 1/2 of those incarcerated look like me, which really means we ain't free. And this is all the sum total of 2, 4, 9, 9, 41 shots. So where were you February 4th, 1999, as those bullets sprayed 41 times? Where were you February 4th, 1999, as those bullets sprayed 41 times? Where were you? Shot 1. You and your homies had an idea. Your sons go get a gun and your sons go get a gun and go terrorize Craig and his crew. As shot 2 ripped through his body, you was at the party singing Lottie Dottie trying to screw some hottie. Shot 3 and 4, your little man is sore, all because you had to ignore the condom that was on the table. Yeah, she was ready, willing, and able to give you a disease. Now you burning, begging, please, Lord, get rid of this. Shot 5, 6, and 7. Nah, G's don't go to heaven because they too busy killing their brethren. Now, Reverend son then got a gun, then lost his mind, then killed 3 of his own kind. Shot 8, 9, 10. Here we go again. You think sex is a sport but can't pay your child support. You blame your baby's mama for the drama, but she has nothing to do with you helping her feed your kids. You too busy trying to help yourself. Shot 11, shot 12, shot 13 and 14. Yeah, you sporting a brand new Yukon while she and your kids are sleeping on a futon on the floor of her grandfather's basement. Your priorities are too complacent. Shot 15 and 16, yeah, you fixing to get it together, but wouldn't rob the bank to make some cheddar. When would you learn that don't make your life better? It makes it worse. Shot 17, 18, 19, and 20. You think you have plenty? Wouldn't bought a Bentley before a house, still sleeping on your mother's couch. Your mentality's as if your name was Rover while our brothers are dying and the shots aren't half over. Shot 21 and 22. What you gonna do when they come for you? Yeah, you're gonna blast back and attack and everything else that get in your path, all to maintain this worthless existence. Shot 22 and 23 and 24. At this point, he hit the floor with his wallet in his hand to prove that he was a man, not the animal they perceived that didn't deserve to be alive. Shot 25 and 26. It's kind of sick that your girl asked you to babysit your kids while she went to work, but you had to be such a jerk. So the kids sat in the back seat of a Honda screaming for their mama as the 110 degrees burned their little bodies to heaven. Shot 27 and 28. But wait, we tend to blame her for her mistake and ignore the circumstances that led up to her life being so dirty. Shot 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41 shots. 41 shots and his life is done. 41 shots and his life is done. 41 shots by 4 crooked cops that shocked the world, shook the hood, and they looking at each other like they did something good, patting each other on the back. On their face were evil smirks, thinking to themselves, all in a day's work. 41 shots and he is dead. And as he lied there in a pool of blood, he said nothing because he was dead. So 41 years I will cry. And for 41 tears, I will wonder why. Why did he have to die? Why did this man live just to die? But maybe that's exactly why he lived, just to die. 41 shots to remind us of the struggle that we must continuously pursue. 41 shots to remind us of the struggle that we must continuously pursue. 41 shots to remind us of the struggle that we must continuously pursue. Because that 42nd shot is meant for you.
Whoa. Okay. Wow. I have a lot of emotions going through me right now. Wow. Good job, Derrick. Thank you for sharing that. It's I'm a processor, so I'm processing everything that you just said, and it's just so interesting because how many times have we had to say that, right? How many times do we have to tell these stories? How many times do we try to make sense of, what happened? And then you say, okay, wow, this person had to lose their life for us to have these conversations. They had to lose their life for us to, have laws change and, wow. And the tears that are shed and the conversations that are had, a life that will never come back, wow. And of course, I always think about my sons. I always think about, my tall sons that have been tall since they were in middle school, and people saw them as a threat and intimidating when they were children. They just happen to be tall, and so thank you for sharing that, wow. So I'm a processor. So I tell you, I have to just give myself a minute because that's deep. It's a lot of things to unpack in that because, wow. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Derrick, for sharing that. I truly appreciate that, for sharing what came from your heart and definitely had passion with it. You definitely meant what you were saying. So I appreciate that. Wow. So with that said, I do want to talk to you about the 9-year-old girl who was pepper sprayed in what was it, Rochester, New York. And 9 years old, I've worked with children for years. And when I see 9-year-olds, I don't see them as a threat to me at all. I see them as a human that I want to help, to love, to nurture, to all of that. So with that said, what are your thoughts on that? I know. It said one police officer was suspended, and I think 2 were, what I write in my notes, I think had administrative leave. So what are your thoughts on that? 9 years old, pepper sprayed and handcuffed and just all of that. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, I'll start from the perspective, when I saw the video, I'll start from the perspective of of a father. Because when I saw it and she kept screaming, I want my dad. Just let me have my dad. Just let me have my daddy. I mean, she wasn't calling for anybody but her dad. Mm-hmm. And that just got me so emotional thinking I have a 9-year-old. And just to know of how powerless I would feel watching that as a father and not being able to rescue my daughter. And, I don't necessarily advocate violence, but as a father, I couldn't help but saying there wouldn't be any suspensions. There would be, I would want to feel some type of retribution, some immediate retribution for my daughter, who only needed to be a child. She didn't need to be manhandled. She didn't need to be told to shut up and, arm twisted and then eventually pepper sprayed. The pepper spray was, mild compared to some of the other traumas that was enacted upon this little girl. I just look at my, when she wells up in tears, when I have a heavy voice, I'm the only man in the house. When, I need something done, sometimes I have to use my heavy voice, and just to see the tremble sometimes in their voice when that happens just breaks my heart. I'm a softie, so go ahead and do it, but give me a hug and a kiss before you do it, that type of thing. And so as a father, I just, as she was calling out, I felt she was calling out for me directly, just like, and I just wanted to, reach through my computer and choke somebody. And I know we're supposed to say we're supposed to have peace and all this, but, I'm a dad, and I think it's my job to protect my little girls from the world almost until they're able to experience it on their own. So
But that's a natural response. I think it's natural to want to feel like you can defend and maybe pay back. I think that's a natural response. So I don't think we have to apologize for that, for being angered, for feeling helpless, and for being wanting to fight back. At some point, especially dealing with children that have trauma. I know what it looks like when someone just constantly keeps poking that bear, right? They just keep just agitating. Eventually, the bear is going to fight back. I mean, it's just kind of what it is. How cats get, pushed into a corner, then they eventually come out swinging with the claws. I mean, it's just kind of a natural response. So I think this is natural, and we have to be okay with saying this is a natural response to be angry. So when people try to silence it or say that, just be peaceful. I want peace too, but we have to, that's an equal thing, right? I mean, eventually, so I get what you're saying, not from a father perspective, but just as a parent, when I see some of these stories, that mother in me comes out, and it's like, and people who know me and know my children know how I am about my children, very protective of them, especially when I feel like somebody is just blatantly doing them wrong. So right. I get what you're saying.
From another perspective, if there ever was a George Floyd moment for the defund police camp, this is it. This is exactly it. The little girl was obviously, she had some type of something going on, and that did not require a police response. It required some type of mental health response. It required some type of compassion. It required some what's going on. Why? It didn't require handcuffs. You don't handcuff a child to try to control them. So when you said earlier, this little girl wasn't a threat, this little girl was absolutely a threat to their white male superiority complex. That's what she's a threat to.
Explain that to me. Yeah, explain that to me.
How dare you not obey my command? How dare you, not do what I say? So, and when they can't really control the situation, they have to amplify the situation and prove their authority. When I'm teaching teachers or doing workshops on cultural responsiveness,
sure,
I tell my teachers that you need to command respect, not demand it.
Right, I agree.
You're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose every single time when you try to demand your respect. You have to command respect, and that doesn't start at the moment that there's conflict. Right. I can say that there's been maybe one or two fights in the classrooms that I've had in the last 22 years of teaching, right? Because, when they look at you, it's a relationship. So it's obviously those police officers did not have a presence in the community. This little girl probably was the first time she was probably scared. She's lived through this summer like my 9-year-old, like my 11-year-old, like my 7-year-old. They've lived through this summer. They understand what's going on. And then when they're confronted with the police, it's not officer friendly. Now it's this occupying force that's coming in here, and I'm scared, and I need some protection. Where's my dad? Where's my protection? Where's my hero to come in to get these bad men out of my way? So of course she's not going to calm down. But she was a threat to their superiority complex. Like, how I got this uniform on. How come she's not respecting the uniform? How come she's not respecting my commands? So he had to keep amplifying and yelling in her face, trying to, it burned me.
And in some of these school settings, I also challenge some of the educators as well, in regards to being able to be that, I want to say it, connecting force with the student, because some teachers, and I get it, trust me, I've worked in classrooms. I get it that some teachers are overwhelmed. Some of the classrooms are, to capacity and above. With that said, I think that also some teachers don't know how to de-escalate. So what happens is some schools call the police, they bring them into the situation. And I don't know, maybe you know more about the beginnings of what happened. I was not able to find that in regards to what happened to have the police called in the first place. Do you know?
I think the reports that I've heard, it was more like there was a family, type of situation. There was an unruly situation. So again, and I think that there was, from the reports that I've read, there was police have been called out there before, but they also had mental health workers come out there before. And
right.
This time they just sent the police.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate.
Again, is there a justification for pepper spraying, yelling at and abusing a child? Absolutely not. I don't care if it was in a school setting or whatever. And I've been in I've seen in the school kids get wild.
Oh yeah, me too.
I've only taught middle school and high school, and they can get wild. I mean, big students, little bitty teachers, and
So Rick is sharing.
What did he say? Rick saying?
Rick is it was stolen car. Mom said she was a threat to herself and others. Yeah, sometimes I have to ask Rick because he sometimes knows some of the yeah. This was Rick. Yeah.
Again, mom is concerned about her child. Again, that's still not the response. So when the school resource officer comes into a classroom where a child cannot be controlled by the teacher, that is still not the response that you have. And again, they are there for the community. And if the community, if the police officers, the resource officers embrace the community, they wouldn't have most of these situations.
Which I agree with you because I've seen both. I've seen resource officers that are loved and love back within the school system. And, and the children respond well to them. And I've also seen firsthand a resource officer right here in my own community that used to try to intimidate the children and actually would stand in the doorway of the classrooms and like kind of stare them down while they're in classroom and do some, really try to intimidate and harass. So I've seen both sides of that. So I definitely agree with you.
That person has a mental issue. And they were probably, this isn't any type of researchable statistic. This is just an emotional statistic, emotional response. I think most of those individuals that do that were bullied themselves in school. And they get those jobs just so they can fight back the bullies that they couldn't fight back when they were in school. So I know that for a fact. I mean,
not all of them, but I know some personally. Okay, I try to speak from my own personal because generally speaking, right. we're kind of talking generally right now. But personally, I know a few for a fact that were bullied in school, and they wanted to, get into that type of position, and so they can have that kind of authority to kind of, get back something that they felt like they got taken away with as a child. So I do know that happens. With that said, I really want to ask you about, people always say, because when we have these kind of conversations, people say, why talk about color? Why focus on being Black? Why talk about these things? We got to get past that. Slavery was in the past, and so on and so on. What are your thoughts on that when people say, and sometimes it's coming from other Black people. Black people say, don't worry about it. Don't talk about color. Let's move on. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man. Well, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes they just don't know. And, Shakespeare wrote that sometimes ignorance is bliss. Means you're don't talk about color is someone that probably doesn't understand the history of race in this nation and how race is still very pervasive in our society right now. Do you think if that was a little 9-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, that response would have happened? Probably not. It's safe to say it's not. Rochester was one of the hotbeds this summer of some of the protests, and people got hurt. So that could still be lingering in people's mind. Unconscious bias, implicit bias, all those are are things that go on in everybody. And, you know, when you have a society that has caged human beings for hundreds of years, and, you know, when that got too cruel or too much of a PR issue for the nation, released them only to enact more injustices on them based none other than the color of their skin. I ask those people, when has it stopped being about race in this nation? When had, you know, when ghettos were created in the inner city, I would say when projects, you know, so there was a housing crisis.
Right.
The government came down in the 70s and gave, you know, money for urban development. And what they've done is they put, you know, people that look like you and I in these things called projects. And they gave the white people access to the suburbs. They built them houses. Government built houses on the outskirts of cities, you know, and they say, well, I don't want a government fund. I don't want a welfare money. All that was government money of the suburbs that we have today. The difference is generations later, those suburbs, those houses can be sold. You can't sell the projects, can't sell my apartment. You just got to move out and, you know, good luck. And why are you so far behind in the wealth gap? It's always been. So they, you know, redlining is a real
I was just about to say redlining. Yes.
It's a real thing. They would put a map up and say, okay, this line on this, don't sell to them, don't lend to them. That's a no man's land, right? And in the city that I'm in, they actually put a line right down the middle and built a highway on top of it, and between the black and the white neighborhoods. And those things are still lingering on to this day. So I ask people, when has it ever stopped being about that? And we talk about policing, goes back to the 1700s when they had slave patrols. That was the first sort of police force in this nation. And the slave patrols, they were trying to find black people. So the entire origin of policing in this nation was to capture black people. And that, you know, when that became unpopular, they had to invent laws that only black people can break and call them black codes or Jim Crow laws. And when they break them, you get to catch more black people. So I ask those people, when has slavery ever ended? When it's written into the Constitution permanently that slavery is legal. And people's like, no, it's not. We've ended slavery. We gave you your freedom. Oh my God. No, the 13th Amendment explicitly says that slavery is legal when you are incarcerated. So they started building schemes. Loitering was a black code. If you two or three you gathered in one place, you are loitering. That comes from a racist intent. You loiter, we get to lock you up for years just from hanging out with your friends. Now you see a group of people, oh, you're loitering. You know, you see a group of white people standing there, they're having a good time. See a group of black people, it must be some gang activity.
Well, and I shared that story with you all last week in regards to what happened to my sons and their friends. So my question to you is, do you think that a lot of police officers today know that history? Do you think that they know the lineage that has come with the field that they're in? Do you think they know?
Probably not. And I don't know if they care, because I think people like to look at themselves in the mirror and think that they're doing something good. And from one perspective, they are. I'm sure, you know, when we think about World War II, what do we say about that generation? It's the greatest generation that spawned the baby boomers. It's a very, the nostalgia of it is something positive, but yet the result of it is millions of people lost their lives.
Yeah.
You know, and in one fell swoop, 300,000 people were incinerated instantly by the hands of people in this nation. You know, when Truman enacted, he said, like, go over to Japan and drop these two bombs.
Yeah.
You know, in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. When that happened, people died. And people don't realize, and from one perspective, we're heroes. We're freedom fighters. And from another perspective, we're murderers and killers. I think it happens the same way on any microcosm. Just pick a neighborhood. Well, why are these black people? Why is this black on black crime? It's proximity. It's not a black on black crime as much as it's just proximity. When people get in disagreement, you're not going to, travel 60 miles to go, get in a fight with somebody. You're going to fight somebody that's your neighbor.
And we know that happens across the board. So when people say that to me, I don't really, because we know it.
I don't think they know it.
Yeah, I don't even remember where or how that even became a thing. Because and of course people have said that forever, but in the last couple of years, that's been the thing. Where what about black on black? Well, I guess with the whole Blue Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, that's when the whole black on black crime has become really in the forefront. And I just don't understand that, because to me, common sense tells you that if you live in a community, crime will happen against each other in that same community. It's just, because I've lived in different communities. I lived, and I've said this before, that I lived in a community called Price Hill when I used to live in Cincinnati. And because that's the only place I could find that I could afford. And it was what people called the white ghetto. They called it the white. It was mostly white, poor class. And I could afford to live there with my children. And it was always crime. Always stuff going on. People, robbing, breaking in, fights, knife fights, and gun fights, whatever. It was always something. So I don't understand the concept of black on black crime. I get it, of course, but again, like you said, it goes with the territory wherever you live. So,
right, and I get it, and I have this conversation with one of my coworkers, and I understand it. She brought that up to me. She was like, "Well, yeah, because she had to go research it. She was like, "Well, no, white people don't kill white people in the same rate as any other race." And she came back and she was like, "Well, then here's the other excuse that I was prepared for." She was like, "Well, it's just the proportionality. Since you guys have lesser numbers than white people, it's a greater impact." And I was like, "That's a very good point." And that's exactly what we mean when we talk about police brutality.
Right.
When you talk about the raw numbers, yes, white people get killed. Other races other than black get killed at a higher numerical rate, but not a proportionate rate. So I say, which proportion are you gonna use? Why can't you use the proportion when it comes to police brutality and seeing that's a problem? But now you want to conveniently cherry pick this proportionality when it comes to black on, when it comes to black and black crime or white on white crime. If it's a problem on one, it's a problem on the other end. You can't choose which one is the problem, which one is not. Either both problems or neither one of our problems, and both are problems. So, it's just a matter of we have to re-educate people and understand what it is about. Because when we talk about police brutality, we're not talking about individual cops. We're talking about a systematic killing. Why is it so easy to kill another black person? And not only that, the criminal justice system stops when it comes to us. No one gets held accountable for that. And they get a paid vacation in many cases. And then they get to appeal all the way up and get all the money back that they were out of when they're found to be not prosecutable when it comes to these things. So it's just like, do our lives even matter? If Michael Vick can go to jail for 3 years killing a dog, or having a dog fighting ring, those dogs matter more than us. And that's what we're saying. Aren't our lives as important that we should seek justice?
Yeah. And that's always an interesting conversation that I like to have with people, because I don't think that, and I think it goes back to what you said, that sometimes people don't like to see the faults in them. And then too, and again, as I told you before, I like all perspectives, right? I like to talk to people from all parts of it to try to understand people's mindsets. And I get the idea that, some people don't see color, as they like to say. They're just doing their job. And I also get, how do I want to say it? I also get that things happen, right? But I also believe that some people do not look at us as human beings. It's just not possible, in my opinion, when I see some of the ways that people are shot and killed. And listen, let me just say this too, because I like to always preface it with this. I believe that consequences should happen, right? That if people do certain crimes or people do certain things, people should have consequence. I believe that because that's just a natural order of things, right? The law and attraction of things. But when it doesn't go across the board, that's the part that I take issue with. When I see different things, where someone can go to, in front of a judge for the exact same thing or worse, and get basically, I've seen what is it with what was this a couple years ago? A college student raped her viciously. I think yes, like she was, I think it was like behind a dumpster. It was something really just grotesque. And he was not sent to jail because his lawyer fought for him and said that it would do too much damage to him. That's happened a couple times. Yes, and that's the part that is just crippling sometimes when you see that, because it's like, how is it? And of course, if you have money and you get the good attorneys, I get it. And the attorneys, go golfing with the judge and they know each other. I get how all that works. But when you see that and when it's so blatant, it's crippling. It's crippling sometimes.
The comparison was to that college student was another college student who had some years in prison. And I think we need to do a better job of communicating to our society. Our American society is this. Yes, Brock Turner. Mm-hmm. Brock Turner should have gotten years in prison, but so should that other individual. And sometimes it comes across as, oh, well, Black people, we need to get off for those heinous crimes when it comes to rape for us. We need to do a better job of saying that, no, they both should be rotting in jail.
Yes.
And, when it comes to the violation of, our women, when it comes to something like that, that is just egregious. So we're not saying let this Black person off like you let Brock Turner off. We're saying let Brock Turner get the same amount of years as other person, because that other person deserves to be in jail. That's justice. Justice is what you deserve.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying, is that let it go across the board. When I have people that I know that are sitting in jail and prison right now because they had a little bit of weed, right? And then you have people that do things like that and they say they can't go to jail or prison because it's going to be too traumatic for him. It's just very interesting to me. And what was help me out, because my brain is not working right now. The young man in New York, they did the special on him on Netflix.
Khalif Browder.
Yes. Every time I see his face on anything, it just does something to me, because when I watched that documentary, and of course at the time, I read the stories and I looked into it, and it was just
some people up. Some people don't know Khalif. Khalif is a tragic American story. This is Black History Month. Let's do a little Black history.
Please do, because
Khalif Browder was a minor who was stopped by New York City police officer while he was walking, and he was accused of stealing a backpack, somebody's backpack, right? Whoever this that story is very ambiguous. He was just accused of stealing a backpack. So they took him down, booked him in Rikers Island. Now, I've lived in New York for, 10 years of my life, and Rikers Island, I've had to visit one of my students there. It is hard to get off of that thing, hard to get on it. It is literally an island in the middle of the water. So he's on this island and having a difficult time. He's getting beat up by the inmates, beat up by the guards. He's having, so much so that he gets solitary confinement, and he spends almost 3 years in solitary confinement. 3 years.
Without even being convicted yet, like
without even being charged.
Yes, Yeah, thank you. Nothing.
And the way the criminal justice system is, not about justice. It's a misnomer. It's not about justice. It's about winning. Modern day, judicial system is about winning. And so a prosecutor wants to win. How does he win? He pleads 90% of his cases. So you said somebody, the theory is, it's Christmas time, you want to go home. So they approached him and say, hey, don't you want to go home? He said, yeah, I want to go home. All you got to do is plead guilty. They approached him several times and say, all you got to do is plead guilty. You can go home today. And he was like, I'm not pleading guilty for something I did not do. and they sent him right back to solitary confinement, and where he was forgotten. And he spent 3 years there. He got out, earned a degree, and the trauma of that experience of 3 years without being charged with a crime, he sat in jail. See, poor people are guilty until proven innocent because they got to go to jail before they have to have a trial. Rich people get to pay their bail, and that was the whole other thing. He couldn't pay his bail. His mother could not afford bail for him to get out. So if you can't afford bail, you're essentially incarcerated while you're innocent. He gets out, and shortly thereafter, he commits suicide. His mother finds him hanging from the air conditioner, and the trauma that it caused him being in there, but the trauma that it caused his family and the whole community. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's another martyr that helped stop some of the bails. The bail in Rikers Island, and so much so that some celebrities got involved, and now they're going to get rid of Rikers Island eventually. Yeah, but why does it have to take that? If we've been in this country since 1619, why does it take all of 400 years for people to wake up and realize that some of these things make so that are so inherently unequal and unfair? Why does it take all this? And, it has to come back to, we're not valued. Let that happen to, let me just go back to the, you will not replace us march in Charlottesville, Virginia. These people have tiki torches. What moved people in that movement was unfortunately, the woman that got killed. Yeah. She wasn't black. She wasn't brown. She was white. And that really got into the consciousness of people that this is just something that should never happen in our, society ever. But it's been happening to us forever. And why can't people realize that, and we can seek justice for ourselves?
I agree that a lot of people woke up after that, that happened to be white. And, even with George Floyd, of course, I think that was a time where a lot of, white people that I talked to and kind of interacted with during that time that woke up and saw, wait a minute, this is really happening. What you all have been talking about is really happening, because it just was so blatant. But for me, all these years has been so blatant. I mean, it's been blatant, but, I'm thankful that people are seeing it now, but still, how do we get past that? And, one thing that I was talking to someone about the other day was that it's so much, subconscious racism that people have that they don't even realize they have. The prejudice. I mean, we all have prejudices, in some degree, but the different when it comes to racism that people don't even realize that's ingrained in them, that they don't even know that they have. And I think that people are starting to see, wait a minute, I do that. I think this way, and starting to come out of that. With that said, I want to get into travel, because I think it's so important to talk about that, because that's something I'm very passionate about. I always tell people to get outside of their bubble, get outside of their spaces, get outside of their comfort zones, get from around the same people that you see every day so you can learn different things. If you never see different cultures, if you never see different ways of life, if you don't even see how people eat, I have friends from all across the board, people, that are Muslim, we break bread sitting on the floor and, have a good time. I have people that, of course, are from, African heritage, and we break bread a little bit differently. We may incorporate some dance. I mean, all across the board. And I've learned to understand different type of people. So wherever I sit, whatever table I sit at, I feel welcomed, and I know how to kind of, interact, because I've exposed myself to that. What do you think about that? Because you've traveled the world. I want you to talk about, your travels with your daughters and your family, and just the importance of seeing different things to open your eyes. This allows you to open your eyes, this right here, in your heart, when you are around different type of people. So talk to me about that, because I think that helps when it comes to talking about opening, one's eyes when it comes to their racism or prejudices.
Right. And it is impossible to live or grow up in America and not be racist, because it is ingrained in us to be racist in this country, to have that sense of otherness, that it comes. So Bianca just came on. Bianca is one of my traveling buddies. I have a ministry called Five Stones Youth Ministry, and through that we expose youth to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that sort of ingrained racism that we are taught, since the first time we're in school in this nation, can be challenged when you interact with other people, as you were saying. When you can touch another human being, understand who they are on an individual level, because racism is all, and prejudice is all about just assigning a characteristic to everybody that looks like them, or everybody that's like that. That starts to erode when you start meeting individuals and realize, oh, well, you're not like that. You're an individual. I mean, we kind of like the same. We homies now. And, my travels has exposed that to me. And first I want to say this before we even get to the traveling part, which can be expensive. It's about what you ingrain in your children.
Yeah.
You gotta free them before they're free. You gotta tell them the truth before they're exposed to the lies. You gotta keep exposing them to who you are. And the World Wide Web can open doors, just like hopping on the plane.
Yes, I agree.
So I've been to 30 countries, and I absolutely love. It's one of my I don't even want to work anymore. I just want to travel and maybe work one day a week doing something that I love, and just exploring this world, because it is a beautiful world.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I instill within my daughters when they turn 10, and I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old. When they turn 10, they get a 10 trip. So that means they get to pick anywhere on the planet. I mean, anywhere on the planet, and I'll take them there. Just me and her. It's a daddy-daughter bonding moment. I teach her about life. I teach her how not to be afraid. So my daughter did it in 2019. She's in the airport, in Dubai airport, and I just sort of hang back and allow her to navigate. I give her the instructions. I said, look at where you are. Teach her about, understanding her surroundings, and just the empowerment that happens, the self-sufficiency that instills within her is amazing. So, and you're right. Andrea Moorhead just said that racism is something that is taught, and if you can teach it, you can unteach it. You can teach anti-racism as fervent as we teach racism in this nation. So my daughter, who is 9, she's come to me and said, "Daddy, well, I want to go to Tanzania. I want to see Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
I want to see elephants." She's infatuated with elephants.
Yeah.
So, guess what? Next year, I'm going to see elephants in the Serengeti with my daughter, and we've already been mapping it out. And it's a year-long celebration of her freedom, just like when she turned 10. And we used to, when my first daughter was born, my wife and I were like, well, maybe it should happen when she's 16. We'll have time to do it. And I quickly realized that 16 is too late.
Yeah.
They have a very ingrained worldview by 12. So like keep at 10. And actually, Bianca, who was on here, she took her son. He was 9. My daughter was 10. And we went to Dubai. They had a time of their life, seeing the world's tallest building, seeing how hot it is, feeling it's something you have to experience to know. It's midnight, 105 degrees. And it's amazing. You see the world's largest mall. You can go skiing. You can do all kinds of stuff in Dubai.
I'm sorry.
We flew to Ghana for 10 days.
Oh, wow. Okay, so both. That's awesome. I want to add, as you stated, it can be very expensive. So for people that can't, go out the country, go to a different state, go out to the West Coast, go out to the East Coast. If you're, go somewhere, see different parts of the world. It's so important. But I want you to get back to your travels, Derrick. But I just want to really just reiterate to people that it's so important to open our eyes to things around us. Everybody doesn't look like us. Everybody doesn't act like us. And I'm so thankful they don't. It's important to see different ways of life. And I have to get you hooked up with my friend. It's a family that they all moved over to Tanzania just literally last year, the end of last year, and they've been there. And there's a whole community of people that kind of came from the Americas and moved over there, and are living it up. And that would be perfect for you all to connect and kind of talk, and they can kind of show you around too. Since they live there. But yeah, go ahead, Derrick. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're saying all the right things, and it's just one of my fantasies is being a fly on the wall when some little boy comes up to my daughter and be like, "Hey, girl, let's go to Atlanta. I'll take you to Myrtle Beach." She was like, "You better take me to Fiji or something like that." I've already been, my oldest has been to 5 countries so far. The other 2 have been to 3 already. And they have a map on the wall. They've been to 27 states.
Yeah,
you're right. Some people don't live and die within close proximity of where they were born, and it's unfortunate because the more you're exposed, the more you learn, the more you grow, and the more you grow, some of these prejudice will be eliminated.
Yes,
I'll tell you a quick story.
Oh, please do.
So I have a friend, Chad. Shout out to Chad Beecher. He was one of the vice presidents at MTV, who sponsored our school when I was in New York. He got a job with Nike, so he moved all the way to Seattle or Portland. He moved to Portland. Mm-hmm. And one day he calls me and said, "I miss New York. I know you've always wanted to do a cross-country trip. I got them to pay to relocate me back to New York."
Oh, wow.
And so he flew me out to Portland, and we drove from Portland to New York. And I tell you, I've been to some white places, but I've never been to some white places like I've seen in Montana, in Wyoming, and things like that. And one place I stopped when we were in Montana, I think we're in Cody. Is that Cody, Wyoming? Maybe Cody, Wyoming. But anyway, we stopped there in a gas station, and I had long dreads at the time. I'm 6'2", and I walk in there, and this lady's like, "Whoa, I ain't never seen one look like you," right?
I've been in those situations.
And Chad sort of froze. He was like, Chad's a white guy, by the way. He's a white gentleman. Mm-hmm. And he kind of froze. He was like, "Uh-oh." And I was just like, "Oh, I'm one of a kind." Mm-hmm. And, she kind of turned red because it just unconsciously came out her mouth, but she kind of turned red. Then I was just like, "Well, I'm one of a kind. Of course you've never seen somebody." We had maybe like a 45-minute conversation right there.
Yes.
Because I realized there's only 2 places she's ever seen somebody look like me. Probably on TV, or on the news, which is heard about. Yeah. Or maybe a rap song or a movie or something. But to have a real life person that's articulate, that is nice, that can smile and have a good time and communicate.
Conversation.
It was life altering for both of us.
Yes.
Because I could have taken it the wrong way. I could have been like, "All these racist crackers out here." I could have said all kinds of stuff, but I didn't. I was like, these people are just, they're, it's an innocent ignorance. And now that they have an opportunity to touch, now you cannot say that you met one of look like me. There's no way that you can say we're all a certain way.
No, I'm so glad that you said that, because it's so true. And those are definitely opportunities that are given to us to just be the enlightened person and just kind of have that conversation, because you can tell when a person is doing it out of, malice, or someone is just literally just kind of ignorant to what they just said, and you just laugh and you can have a conversation. I do want to share this with you. As I said, I worked with students for a very long time, and typically people always put me in situations with the students that are what they consider, which I hate calling this, but, at risk, or, just kind of troubled, and, they feel like I do well with them. So with that said, it was a student that he always kind of put he would draw the Confederate flag. He would have it on all his folders, whatever. I didn't care. I was there to teach him. I'm teaching them or whatever. We're working, blah, blah, blah. But the teachers around me were very upset about this. They were, which was rightfully so. They're very upset. They felt like it was a disrespect to me, and they wanted him to stop, and they wanted to punish him for this. And I'm like, don't punish him. Let me talk to him. Let me talk to him. Let me work with him a little bit more one-on-one. Because my goal was that after all of this, if you can walk away and say, I at least had one Black person that I interacted with, and she was this way, and she was not that way, then I've done what I need to do. You know what I'm saying? Because he came from a family where he told me his grandmother sold cars, and he said, if you're looking for a car, don't go to her lot because she don't want you on her property. And I said, that's good to know because I won't. So we had that conversation. But I just want to tell you this, after working with him and kind of being able to connect with him, I'll never forget, I saw him in the grocery store with his mother. And she also did not like people that look like us. And I'll never forget, I'm walking and I didn't wave at him because I knew he was a little uncomfortable. The mom doesn't like, so I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. And as I walk by, he's standing behind his mother and he kind of gives me this wave and a smile. And I just remember thinking to myself, and of course I get all choked up thinking about it because of the connections I made with these children, but it was like, he knew I was an okay person and he had to work through that. And he was a teenager at the time. So as he grows, however he chooses to continue down that path is up to him. He knows that he at least experienced one person that wasn't what he was told, what he was taught. So I appreciate the story that you shared in regards to that because
that's my sole purpose when I'm in the classroom. Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to work, but when I do work, I go to, I'll go into a classroom. My sole purpose, I don't care how long it takes, if it takes weeks, if it takes months.
Yeah.
Once I have you in the palm of my hand, which happens very quickly now that I'm, experienced, happens very quickly. I not only want to be a different Black person for my white students, I want to be a different Black person for my Black students. Yes. When they learn that, you've been to 30 countries. I have my flags up in my classroom of the places I've been.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've been there. I show them pictures. I show them this. And I was like, yes, it's possible. My economics class, I showed them how you can be a millionaire making $7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity. They're like, wow, how? And I show them things that empower them. That you don't have to be just a normal Black person, keeping it real. Or I was like, you guys are claiming right, you claiming stuff that you don't even own. Your grandmama don't even own. You fighting over this stuff. Go ahead and buy it. Grandmama house is on the tax sale. I'm gonna show you how to make it happen. You grew up in this neighborhood. Don't take your dollars out to the suburbs. Take your dollars right back into your community and make it better. And that's what I want to teach. I want to be a different individual, a different human being, so they can aspire to be anything that they want to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like not saying that what you know or your family culture is wrong, but I want you to understand there are different options, and when people put us all into this lump of, where, everybody should be like this, or everybody should talk like this, or everybody should dress like this, it's just so played. It's like, get past that. We kind of have risen above that, so I appreciate you, kind of giving them those options and letting them know that there's more to it than what they know.
And my friend Angel, she talks about, normalizing the Black experience. That's all we need you to be doing, because it should be normal that we, fly off to Paris. It should be normal that we vacation, in exotic places, to go to Morocco, which is a beautiful place, by the way. You should go.
I would go to Morocco.
Normalizing that a 10 trip should be something that's not an anomaly in my family. I don't consider myself wealthy, but I do. If you're going to make those decisions for your life, you got to start making decisions that lead up to that. Once I put it out there, my 10-year-old, my middle child rather, she is sensitive and she don't forget anything. So if we don't go, it's like you lied to me. Set you up for disappointment all over, and I'm her first hero. I'm her first man. I'm her, we went on the first date. I'm all of that.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, we got to set our lives up to make these things possible. Normalizing the Black experience. And that's not original to me. That's my friend Angel Seekers. She's the one that comes up with these things, and she's a very articulate, and she does that with her own family. They have properties all over the United States, and they're saying, well, this should be normal.
It should, and I'm glad you said that, because I think that's been kind of like an echoed mantra throughout, especially 2020. People are really talking about normalizing the Black experience.
Mm-hmm.
When you spoke of Montana, there's a lady that I kind of am trying to connect with that. I think she lives down south somewhere, but she bought 41 acres out in Montana for her family to be homesteaders.
One more than she was promised.
Pardon me?
One more acre than she was promised.
Yes. And she tells her story of her and her husband and her children. But me, I'm really like, a naturalist, and I'm really into like, I have a lot of friends that are homeschoolers, and I also work with women, when they're giving birth and after and beyond, as a doula. So I work with a lot of people that have different experiences, because that's another part of normalizing our experiences, having multiple children. It's so interesting. When I worked in the school system, and this is a fact, this happened for real. If a white family had, the homeschooling and, a big family, it was quite normal. It was expected, no big deal. If a Black family had that same experience, it was, why are you having so many kids? It was almost as if, can you afford them? Why are you doing this? Why are you homeschooling? They need to be in school. They need to be around different children. It's like, you have no idea what the homeschool experience looks like. Then if you're saying that shows your ignorance. But with that said, I also like to talk about that, normalizing that part of us too, where we can do what we want to do. If we want to have multiple children, we can have multiple children. If we want to live in Montana, we can live in Montana. If we want to homeschool, we can do that. And it shouldn't have to be this thing where it's like, oh, you're Black and you do that. It's like, no, I'm just doing this.
Right. And sometimes that comes from a cultural innocent place when it comes to white people. Because think about this, in the 13th and 14th century, 66% of their culture was wiped out by the plague. So they have ingrained in their culture an insecurity when it comes to, I got to protect everything about us, right? So sometimes the exploration came from, how do we gain more resources? Europe doesn't have the gold, the diamonds, the rubies, the sapphires, the oil, the salt, the spices. So they have to explore these places all for survival of their culture. And that spills over to now. And sometimes when they're asking you, like, why are you having all these kids? Sometimes even the immigration policy is about, we're losing our country. It's not going to be a majority white country. 60 years ago it was 80% white. Now it's 49% white. So they are technically a minority in this country. And they're the largest minority, if there was a single group, but they're still the minority number wise. There's more Black, brown, and Asian people than there are white.
Yeah.
And that's what, that spills over to the abortion debate. They're protesting in the white neighborhoods. You don't see them in the hood protesting abortion at clinics, because you killing them babies is okay, but killing us and our legacy, we got to protect that. And that has traditionally been sort of the consciousness, the subconsciousness in their culture. It's about survival. That's why we're losing grip on us. And if we lose control of this nation, it's going to be bad for us. We're going to lose. And they don't, Black people, we ain't trying to wipe you off the planet. We're just living. We minding our Black business. It's like we're just living, but I'm just living. But it's interesting because people do say that. I mean, what you're saying is not untrue. It's the truth. I mean, especially when you talk to people who are, white supremacists, or, I hate using the word supreme, but I'm just using that for lack of a better word. But when people practice those type of lifestyles and ideologies and mindsets, they do say that. I mean, that's their whole reason of being, because they feel like they are being wiped out.
But before we go, I mean, this is a good conversation. And Derrick, I'm going to have you back on because it's so much to talk about and so much to unpack. But I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about your book, Orange. And I want to talk about where it came from, why you wrote it, what it's about, so people can support you in that. So please tell us about Orange. Oh, yes, there it is. Awesome.
Well, Orange is a labor of love. It took me 20 years to write this book. I wrote it in about 1998. My siblings were going through a rough patch, and so I just came up with the story of Orange and how they were feeling sort of ostracized in their own personal lives. So I wrote a story about Orange where, I had this silly song that I would tell to my sister and my brother and my little cousin. And it was called Orange is the Loneliest Word because nothing rhymes with orange. And that was the basis of the song.
Oh, that's true.
Subsequently, I would, through my teaching career, my speaking, going to different schools, I would tell this story when I'm in front of little kids. And they would love this story. And I would keep telling it. Fast forward to 2019, my wife wakes me up in the fall and says, I had a dream about Orange, and you should write that book. Get it done. So, and it was never written. It was always in my head, and I didn't want to write it because I would tell the story differently every time. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I sat down. 4 hours later, the story was written. I called my friend who lives in Virginia, who illustrated your book. She gave me the name of the lady, Ross Webb. We communicated only online. Never met her. Don't know what her voice sounds like. She lives in Ireland. And she sent me the preliminary drawings. I was like, this is it. And, exactly a year ago, January 15th, I released the book. And the story is about that. It's about inclusion. It's about the power of words. It's about positive self-esteem and purpose. Orange realizes that when she's ostracized from the rainbow, she doesn't realize she desires to run away. And when she runs away, she takes everything that's on the planet that's orange with her. The juice that we drink in the morning, what's it called? What's the juice called?
What, orange juice? What you talking about?
No, not orange juice, because orange ran away. It faded to gray.
Orange. Okay, so what juice do we eat? Apple juice? What juice? Apple juice?
I'm trying to be orange juice. Now it ain't.
Okay.
Basketball goals, tigers, just everything that's orange fades away. And so we use that, when we're talking to kids about purpose, and that you have a purpose and you're beautiful and you make the world shine just by being who you are. And Bianca says a great therapeutic tool because she's using some of her therapy as well. I use it at school. I mean, it's a book for kids, but it's applicable to many different age groups. So that's Orange, and it can be found on my website. Put that back up there. Let me see.
I am. There we go. I got you. There we go.
DSlack.com. You go there. If you use coupon code Black History 2021 up until the end of the month, you get 20% off your order. So order 10. So if you order 5, it's like getting 1 free, right? That's 20%. Order 5. Yep, it's like getting 1 free. So order 5 and you get 1 free, kind of. You get 20% off the entire order.
Do you have an option on your website where people, if they don't necessarily want the book, but they want to donate it to others, do you have that option?
Yeah, they just put that other person's address in it as they buy it. Okay.
Because I know some groups of people that may not necessarily, but they like to support, So yeah,
I encourage everybody to get the book. It's a great book, And I'm involved in a network of many Black authors. There's a company that I'm partnered with, Clover Lane Media, and they have a book out called Rolling with Rico. And again, like Angel was saying, that normalizing the Black experience. It's just a book about a Black family that has a dog, and that we don't read books about that and how they interact with their Shih Tzu, and just he's a part of the family. That's another normalizing part of our Black experience. So it doesn't have to just be about deep issues. It just could be about just living life,
just
going on vacation with your dog. And I think she's going to make it a series. But support all all of our experiences, because it is, I think we're wonderful, wonderful people. So
of course,
available on my website, dslack.com. Anywhere books are sold, actually. You can go to Barnes & Noble. You can go Amazon.
over.
Go to my website. You can get it directly, and I'll sign it. Just use coupon code Black History 2021. You get 20% off your order right now.
Awesome. Yes, I encourage people to, she say living life free of the massive trauma. Yes, trauma is a deep thing, and and I just always circle back to since our conversation started off about experiences with law enforcement and just different experiences. Being Black in America, comes with a lot of trauma, and people don't I've come to realize people don't understand trauma, and if they understood trauma, they would understand why people are upset, why people don't know how else to respond anymore, why people are emotional. I just think back this summer when, as we talked about last week, when everybody was so united. I remember I went to, I was asked to speak at a couple different rallies, and I remember when I went to one, I'll never forget it. It was in an area where I did not expect to see so many different people, especially white people. I'm just gonna be honest, I did not expect to see it. I looked back because I was filming some of it, and I remember looking back at like just crowd, this huge crowd of mostly white people who were standing alongside others. And I just remember saying, wow, this is really different. This was last summer was different than what I've seen before. So with that said, I think people are starting to understand that the outcry is real. It's genuine.
And I just want to say this. I know we're over time.
Sure.
But, when it comes to trauma, it is 100% our responsibility to get ourselves out of trauma. It is nobody else's responsibility to do that.
Yes.
My dad used to always tell me, he said, it might not be your fault you got pushed in the hole, but it sure is your responsibility to get out of it.
Yes, I agree.
We can't just sit back and waiting with our hand up while we're in the hole trying to, waiting for somebody to pull. And they're like, well, you're in that hole. It's more for me out here. You come out here, you're going to eat up some of my resources. You stay in that hole. No, it's our responsibility to get ourselves out of the hole, to be more self-sufficient so that we can stand on our own feet, not to beg and, any other person for our freedom or anything else.
And that's a whole nother conversation. That's when more of the sister soldier comes out, because I definitely could talk about that, because I believe in that. I don't believe in constantly, blaming other people for what you're going through. At some point, you have to kind of do some things for yourself. I definitely agree with that. And as a
stimulus check, but I ain't gonna be begging you for it.
Of course I will. You know what? It's so funny, and I know we got to go, but when I look at white collar crimes, they take stuff all the time. So I'm not gonna feel bad for taking something that hey, I've been working since I was 15. I'll take it. I put enough into it. So anyway, I appreciate you, Derrick.
Great. I appreciate you having me on, Aaron.
Of course. Yes, we're going to, continue this conversation another time. I really, I just enjoy good, authentic, genuine conversation. Thank you, Katie. Yes. And thank you, Bianca. Yes, go to therapy. Therapy is something that's okay, and we do not have to be afraid of getting the help that we need. Again, Derrick, thank you so much. I encourage people to buy your book. I'm going to buy it. I keep having too many authors on this show, because every time somebody comes on, I have to support and practice what I preach and get the book. I got a show full of books. I got people that's been on the show, but I appreciate you. I think I'm going to get it and donate it to one of the local schools here, so they can have it, because all my children are older. Of course, I want to read it for myself, but I think I'm going to donate a couple to the school so they can have. I'm a person that believes in representation and different types of conversations. So anyway, Derrick, thank you so much. Thank your wife for, being away from you for a little bit to let you on. Tell your daughters hello. And we have to talk about the trip to Tanzania. I have to connect you with my friends. And thank you again. I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate what you have to offer and what you offer to the world.
Thank you so much.
You have a great evening.
You do this well. Happy Black History Month.
Yes. Take care. Awesome. That was another great conversation. Thank you all for, commenting, and thank you for helping the conversation going along and supporting. I really do appreciate Derrick for coming on, and sharing his perspective and being so authentic. It's awesome. So you all have a great evening, and I wish you all well. Thank you.